Yo, good day, gents, and welcome to another episode of Father's Fire. My name's Jody Cedric, as you know, and every week we get together to explore the joys, the challenges, the triumphs, the sorrows, and yes, the fun of being a dad. And I'm telling you, this fall's about to get super fun because my oldest son, Devin Michael Cedric, is actually going on tour with his band. They kick off in Boise September 27th, end up in LA on October 10th, I think. So me and Judy are going to go be fanboys and go follow them around and listen, and we're super excited. So always something fun and new and adventurous, and watching your kids go and pursue their dreams is awesome. So I'm super excited. As you guys know, I've been super busy this summer, been a little neglectful, not out of wanting to be neglectful, just haven't had the time. So I'm super excited. I have a new guest with me today. His name is Chris Miller. He is the founder of Mechanics Garage. He's a coach, author, and a fatherhood architect. I love that. So welcome, Chris. How you doing, man?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having me on here.
I love that title, fatherhood architect. What do you mean by that? I love that.
I before I got into this whole coaching aspect and helping dads be better dads and realistically be the dad they wish that they had growing up, I was a mechanic for 15 years. And that's actually how I look at a lot of this stuff. I take different aspects of us. I can relate it to a car, how you would build it, how you would fix it, work on it, maintain it, and it gets to a point where you become the architect of the future version of you. You just have to know what direction you want to go to begin with.
I love that, and I think a lot of dads. So before we jump fully into this, tell us a little bit about your family dynamic.
Sure. So I've been with my wife for 10 years now. I've got three different kids, one 4, one 8, one 15. My oldest was from a prior relationship. So we've got that blended aspect that's going on as well. And to make it even more fun, my 15-year-old's the only girl in our family. My two youngest ones, they're both boys. And so it's pretty much chaos, especially when you throw cats and dogs into the mix, then the whole kit and caboodle. It's never boring, I can tell you that.
That's awesome. That's exciting. Um, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about, what does it take to navigate the nuances, the challenges of a blended family? Because let's be real, there's a lot of dads in that situation today.
Oh, it gets crazy, and it the first thing that I like to work with guys on is just have conversations to begin with. Especially when we start blending things together, we like to assume that, well, I'll take care of this and you take care of this and whatnot. But at the same time, there's that aspect there of that's not really your kid. So with my wife and with my daughter, yeah, there's things that she will help out with, things that she will help take care of, but there's also a lot of it that's on me because I am actually her dad. So there's that middle ground of are you parent or are you friend? And it takes open communication between both husband and wife to really figure out what that dynamic looks like from the get go, rather than waiting for it all to explode and then you're trying to figure it out from there.
Yeah. So I have so many thoughts going, so many memories, so many thoughts going there. I think one of the challenges, especially as you're blending families, is you assume that what you've done in the past as a dad will work in this situation. Like, Judy and I, we were blessed to adopt two different kids, and I I took a lot of pride in being a good father, right? We had four, and then we adopted two. And when the two came into our home, I realized very quickly, after some explosive, to use your word, situations, that the way that I had been parenting in the past was not going to work. And so I had to become a new father. I had to evolve and develop. And that was hard, right? Because I think a lot of times we as dads, we have this idea, this feeling, this mentality that I'm the dad, so I need to be respected. And I learned really fast that I had to earn respect because the kids that I've been raising since they were babies, they already trusted me. They already respected me. And I had to build that trust. I had to build that respect with my new kiddos who came into our home at 8 and 9. And I really had to look in the mirror and be authentic with myself and go, dude, you are not at your best at that moment. So what do you need to do differently to build love and trust in the home with these kiddos?
Hmm. Yeah, I fell into the same trap, especially with my boys the way they are right now. Two boys between 3 years roughly between each other, and they will get after each other like well, like me and my brother did in the process of growing up. That's just kind of how boys are, right?
Yeah.
And I would expect them to respect me when I told them, "Hey, you need to knock it off." And that was all the discussion that there was supposed to be. I said, "Stop. That means you stop." But the funny thing was, is I got to thinking about it one day, and I'm like, "What really is respect to begin with?" Well, it's a feeling. It's a judgment to begin with. And have I communicated that even with my kids, or
Mhm.
do I just assume that they know what it is that I'm talking about, and they're just going to listen just simply because I'm dad? And that gets
Yeah.
into even the whole dynamic of what do we even do with the titles that are bestowed upon us to begin with? Most of us, when we talk to somebody, they'll ask us, "Hey, tell me about yourself. What do you do?" And we typically respond with our job title. Like that's the most important thing about us. But if we strip that title away, even if that title is dad, who exactly are we? Are we even worth looking up to and leading this pack that we have? Or are we
Mm.
just assuming that we're doing the best that we possibly can? And that's got to be good enough. Maybe it's just a little bit better than my dad was for me, and that's okay. I think that's kind of setting the bar a little bit too low.
Yeah. So how do you change the bar, right? There are so many dads that didn't have a good father to emulate.
Mhm.
That he was either abusive, alcoholic, was absent. I mean, whatever. There's a myriad of things that dad could be or could not have been. And if you didn't have that role model, how do you come into a relationship with your beautiful lady and you start having kids or you start adopting kids? How do you become the dad that you didn't have?
First off, we have to understand what that even looks like. I refer to a lot of this stuff as blueprints, kind of like the one that's right behind me, because that's ultimately what we get left by our dads, whether they were there, whether they weren't, whether they were abusive, or whether life was just good enough that you don't think you have a reason to be upset about your upbringing. No matter what, we still get that blueprint handed to us, but most of us don't ever take the time to check it out and see what it actually says and see if it's even authentically who we want to be. Most of the time, you get one of two options. Either my dad did this really good, I'm going to do the exact same thing, or there's no way I'm going to do this when I'm a dad. That's what you hear most people say, but that's just
Yeah.
opposite ends of the pendulum, and both of those ends cause damage. Really, where we need to be at is kind of in the middle of that pendulum and actually asking ourselves, who do I want to be as a dad without all of the noise from my parents in the past or some of the things that maybe a coach or an uncle or something said to us in the process of growing up. Who exactly do I want to be as a dad? What does that look like? And some people, yeah, they're like, I didn't have a dad around to even know what that looks like. True, you may not have, but I guarantee you every dad out there has somebody out there that he can look up to as I like what he's doing. Okay, cool. Let's take that piece that he does and let's see how we can get there. In the program that I run, we call this building a chimera. We take different pieces and different traits, different strengths that we want to embody, that we want to become. That way we know where to start at. If I use the analogy of if I'm in California and I want to go to New York, cool. That's pretty easy. I know that I go to the east and eventually I'll get there. But do I know what road to take? Do I know what town I'm going to, what hotel I'm staying in? Do I know all of the fine tuned specifics of it to get me to exactly where I want to be? Most of us probably don't when we're talking about fatherhood. I want to be a
Yeah.
good dad. Well, what does a good dad mean to you? I don't know. that's that's kind of where a lot of guys end up at. They just don't really answer the question for themselves.
Yeah, so how do they answer that question, right? Because I understand the sentiment. It's like I don't know because I didn't have it, right? That's the thought process. I don't know because I didn't have it. Um, and I've talked to a lot of guys that had were in that exact situation, and they're like, you know what? I knew what I didn't want to be, and I just leaned into being the opposite. And you kind of hinted that that could create its own damage as well.
Mhm.
So what advice would you have to those men that are like they're not quite sure what dad looks like in their mind or in their heart?
I would tell them to simply go through and answer that question because most dads, myself included for a long time, I had no idea what to do when I hit a point of, I don't know. That scared the crap out of me most of my life. Knowing something is what got me that praise. It's what got me that attaboy was because I knew the answer to something. So I couldn't even admit to myself that I didn't know. And it took me a while to figure it out. But once I hit, I don't know, that's where all of my growth started taking place. Because the only thing to do was to answer that question and figure out, okay, well, I know I don't want this. I don't know what that means going forward, but I can figure it out moving forward too. I can start
Yeah.
asking questions. I can start looking at myself and is this really me? Or is this something dad put on me? Even the opposite thing of what dad did when I was growing up, that's still basically letting our parents raise our kids. We're
Mm,
just letting it go right through us instead of doing anything to, as they say, break that curse, right?
yeah. Yeah. I'm all about. I love your analogy of a blueprint because I use that a lot in when I'm talking to other people. It's like, look, I can share you my journey of becoming a dad, and that will give you a blueprint, but you need to adapt that blueprint to fit your personality, to fit your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, you got 3 kids, I got 6 kids. And what I was doing for the first 4 was not working for the last 2. And, and that actually rippled across all the kids because I had to become a different dad for all of them because we brought in pain and trauma and sorrow and hope and excitement, right? And so recognizing that you have to be able to be authentic with yourself. And a lot of times I would tell my kids, like, look, you know what? I'm really sorry. I mean, how many dads actually tell their dads that they're sorry, that they messed up, that at that moment I was not at my best and I apologize. And I promised you that I will do and be better. And I think it's okay to let your kids know that you don't have all the answers, that you're trying to grow with them, you're becoming a different person. I was watching this really cool interview. It was on TikTok, and the lady asked this gentleman, I wish I could remember his name. She said, well, don't kids have the same parents, if you got multiple kids? He's like, no. He goes, you think about the evolution of your family over time. Each one of your kids are going to have a different dad. You might have, a dad at the beginning of your marriage and you're struggling to build a business or go to college. And then you get a dad that's more stable. And then you get a dad that's just tired and crotchety.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely different depending on how many kids are in that time frame, right? So, you know, it sounds like you've been very intentional about the kind of dad that you want to be. Because one of the things that I've realized is that, yes, I need to teach my kids, I need to model for them. But your kids, more than anything, will remember how you made them feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
there's
that lasts.
there's three things that I look at least that kids are typically trying to seek at any point in time. And it's, do I feel seen? Do I feel safe? And do I feel heard? Doesn't matter really anything else. I mean, sure, there's going to be some other stuff they ask for, especially my boys. Can I have a snack or a candy bar? Yeah, that's all surface level stuff. I mean, the stuff that's deeper down than that. A lot of the times, that's what kids are simply seeking to know. So if they come up and ask us a question and we're just sitting here scrolling on our phone, like, oh, yeah, that's cool, bud, they're not going to feel seen. They're not going to feel heard. And oftentimes, they're also not going to feel loved. They're going to feel like dad loves the phone more than he does his own kid. That's one of
Yeah.
those things that we don't think anything about because of where we're at in life. But to our kids, that's probably the biggest moment their whole week. And we just stomped it out without even thinking about it.
Yeah. So how do you, and this is me playing devil's advocate, right? How do you make your kid be seen and feel loved when you come home, you're just exhausted, you've had a crappy day, and you're like, you know what, I just need to veg for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to dismiss them
It
because we're being selfish, if you want to be honest.
it is, but I don't think it's something to hide from our kids either. The question is, how do we go about that?
Yeah,
Whenever I get done, out in the office, if I get off of a podcast or I get off of a call or whatever else, some of the guys I talk to, I mean, some of these stories will just about bring you to tears, man. And it takes little pieces inside of me, and it's like, man, I got to recover after this. Like that
yeah,
was some heavy stuff. But I'm not afraid to show my kids that either. And I'll just simply tell them, like, man, this call that I was on, it really got to me. Like I need to do a little bit of recovery for me right now because I want them to know that it's okay to feel that way sometimes.
mm,
I don't want them to feel like they have to always be at 100 because I know I'm not always at 100. I kind of even think back the podcast that you did about your kid wrecking your truck even. Like you, I guarantee that wasn't he just came up with that on his own. It's like, yeah, I did this, I'll own it, whatever else, right? Like, no, he learned that by watching the things that you do.
yeah,
Even when we don't think that they're looking, those are sometimes the most important moments when we don't even know they're there. Whether
yeah,
it's owning up to our mistakes, whether it's how we talk to our wife. I mean, they see way more than we ever give them credit for. And so I
yeah,
think of it more in the terms of, should I be correcting their behavior or should I be connecting with them? And it's kind of funny. All you have to do is switch one letter there and you go from one to the other. But
yeah.
if we're just trying to do connection or correction without actually connecting with them, and that gets very corrosive.
Yeah. And a lot of us dads, we tend to go to correction immediately, right? Instead
Mhm.
of going, all right, whoa, what just happened here? It's like, what? All right, I see Johnny's over here. He's got a broken arm, and you're over here with a fat lip, and you're throwing accusations and arrows at each other, and you're like, all right, I got to triage this first. I got to get you guys from bleeding, but tell me what happened. And I know, like, especially when I think about my kids going through high school, my one daughter really struggled. She just had a lot of challenging situations that she had to work through, and I recognize that some days she would just come home and she would just be difficult. I mean, just like and and I finally started learning that it wasn't what was happening at home. It was something that had happened during the day, or even a couple days ago that she hadn't fully processed and worked through. And when I slowed down and stopped being so demanding and so critical, and I said, "All right, something's off, babe. So something's off, sweetheart. Tell me what's going on." And she like sometimes you'd be like, "I don't want to talk about it," but other times, dude, she would just open up, and then I'm like, "All right,"
Mhm.
and being disciplined and humble enough to know, you know what, it's not always about what you see immediately. There's other factors in the background that have led up to this point. And if we can peel back the onion layer by layer a little bit, we can get to the root cause and both of us can grow together as a child and a dad.
Yeah, 100% agree. I mean, most of the time, the first thing that comes out, the words that get said, aren't even close to accurate, but they're a clue. You just have to figure out how to read between the words. We take things, especially us as guys, just the way that we're wired, we take things a lot of times at face value. So when our kid says, "Well, I had a really crappy day at school today." "Oh, that really sucks, dude. Hey, what do you want for dinner?" Okay, like that wasn't a question. All that was a statement. That means I don't have to do anything because he's just like, "Yeah, I had a crappy day." But when we start to look in between the words that they say, when we check out their body language, the mood that they're in, when we start putting all these pieces together like a little puzzle, we start to see actually what's going on with our kid. And we can be like, wait a second, this isn't the you that's normally around, man. Like what's going on with you? But that's also only possible, again, if they know that they're safe. And then after that follows the seen and heard, if we actually listen to what they're saying. It's it's one of those things I often tell guys that honestly, a lot of this stuff, the way we have these conversations, it's the same thing with our kids as it is with our wife. We
Mm,
don't have to fix their problem for them. We can listen to what they're saying and we can offer advice, but most of the time they just want to be heard.
yeah.
So if we go in there, "Well, I had a really crappy day at school today. Hey, what can I do to fix that for you?" Nothing. "Okay, good talk, dude." And that's kind of where it gets left. Like, no, like pause, slow your roll, like just listen. That kid's looking for connection. He's not looking for correction there. So we don't have anything to do but just sit there, use both of our ears in relation to our mouth like we're supposed to.
Yeah, I like that phrase, connection, not correction.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about my brother. He went through a pretty messy divorce a couple years ago. Has a beautiful wife now. And she's just a godsend angel. I just love her. But I remember I said he was really struggling with one of his kids, and I told him, I said, you know what, you got to be willing to be the punching bag. He was, what do you mean? He was, I'm tired of getting punched. I go, no. I go, she is testing to see if you're going to stay. Mom left, so she's pushing your buttons to make sure that you're going to stay. And so when she comes home and she's just being difficult and you're pushing her to limits, recognize that she's testing to see if you're going to be resilient, if you're going to stand firm, if you're going to be the peace and the anchor that she needs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard when you're in the heat of it because you get tired of being the punching bag. And sometimes you got to go, look, and he actually did that. It's like, all right, I told you I'd be your punching bag, but today you get to own it, right? I'm not being the punching bag anymore. But creating a space where she can come home, she knows that no matter what she says or does, the dad's going to look for connection. He's going to look for a way to understand, to bridge the gap, to help her heal through her process, right? Because I think a lot of times, especially in divorce, we're going through the trauma of that as a couple. Our kids are also going through the trauma of that, right? Because now mom's gone, dad's gone, and they're feeling these split loyalties. Well, I love my dad and I love
Mm-hmm.
my mom, and they're talking bad about dad, but I'm like, I don't see that. That's not the dad I see, right? And so recognizing that somehow you got to create a safe space that they can heal through the trauma that's been instilled on them unintentionally and maybe even intentionally by what's happening in your family.
100%. And that's, I'll give you two different points on that I know fairly well, because that was something that I lived through too, was my parents getting divorced. And what that ended up teaching me ultimately was my feelings didn't matter, because my
Mm,
parents would tell me things like, "Well, you shouldn't feel that way," or
mm.
"There's no reason to feel like that. You should be happy about this," or different things like that. It was like they were just slapping a bumper sticker on me that said no emotional regulation at all. It's like, "Oh, thanks for that." Then nobody tell me you could actually pull bumper stickers back off. I just wore it for like 20 years after they got divorced, so that was fun.
Yeah.
But it was something that I'm actually glad that took place, because if that wouldn't have took place, then there's no way I would be the dad that I am now, to my kids. So even with all of that stuff that took place in my upbringing, the good and the bad, I'm happy that it all happened because either it gave me something really good to do, to look forward to, and to become, or it gave me a really good example of how not to do something. And both of those are they're equally valuable, especially when it comes to raising our kids.
Yeah.
These were all things that I had to do the same thing with my daughter whenever her mom and I split. I had to go through and help her with that process, but she listened to what I was saying because she had seen that I had also gone through that process. So I wasn't just googling an answer and then reading the answer to my kid and saying, "Why can't you figure it out?" I actually had to do the work first. One of the biggest things, the three main words that I use when I'm talking to guys is you go first. It's
Mm.
simple as that. If we don't go first, we're letting our kids walk through the forest without any kind of flashlight, without any kind of guidance. No wonder they get lost.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot. I think that's so powerful about squashing your feelings. So many times in even healthy quote healthy families, because we all have a little bit of messy, let's be honest.
Mhm.
Even the perfect family that you're watching across the street, I'm telling you, behind those doors there's a lot of mess, right? They've just figured out how to navigate it a little differently than you. But one of the things that I think is universal, especially with young boys, is a lot of times we squash their emotions. We're like, oh, you know what, it's not that bad, just man up, get over it.
Mhm.
Instead of going, you know what, I know this really sucks, man. Tell me about how you feel and let's work through that emotion. We put a lid on it instead of going, all right, recognizing that these emotions are real and teaching them how to move through those emotions that are very raw at times. They're very hurtful. And somehow we got to empower our kids to realize that it's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to feel disappointed. It's what you do with it afterward that I need to give you the tools to help you be a more healthy and mentally vibrant person than squashing it all down in this dark abyss that we carry for 20 years, and then it's exhibited in our anger or our impatience or whatever, instead of really unpacking it from the
Mhm.
beginning, instead of squashing it and doing it when it's really painful.
And one of the craziest things I think is it's how much the words that we say actually impact our kids. I
Mm,
like to think of this as like, what's our intention versus what's our execution look like. So if my intention is my kid came home and they had, bad grades, maybe they got like a C in math, and we know that they're a capable easily, math is their jam, and they come home with a C. I'm like, yeah, I see that. Like, I know that you can do better though. That kid hears I'm not good enough right now. And we think we're being encouraging whenever we say stuff like that in the first place. Our intention was great. We wanted to help elevate our kids. We wanted to help make them not feel bad and like, no, I know that you can do better. You're totally fine. No worries. But then they're in the room later going, I'm just not good enough right now.
yeah,
Our execution just completely went out the window on that one. And
yeah.
then we tell ourselves that we had the best of intentions and it almost becomes an excuse of sorts.
Mm, yeah. It's a delicate thing, but I think one of the things that I really like about what you're saying is that show your kids your growth.
Mm-hmm.
I I think a lot of times we as dads think, oh well, I have to be this perfect thing. I can't share with them in my weakness. I can't share my faults as a young man. And I wrote a book. It's out on Amazon. It's called "But How Far Must I Go? A Journey in Faith." And I wrote the book um, with the goal of letting people know that what I faith is not easy. I think sometimes we oversimplify. Oh, just have faith. God will
Mm-hmm.
only give you something that you can handle. And dude, in the middle of a storm, that does not give hope. It is actually discouraging. So I wrote this book with that kind of backdrop in mind. And when I got done, I actually wrote a private letter to my kids, or a private chapter. There, and it's a pretty long chapter, and it is a specific instance in my life that I share with them that really showed my doubts, my concerns, my uncertainty about where I sat in my faith. And I wrote that to my kids. And I put it in the book and I gave the book to each one of the kids for Christmas. And every one of my kids came up to me and said, Dad, thanks for sharing that with me because I didn't realize that you had those kind of struggles in your own life.
Hmm.
And I think kids need to see that dad, because it's easy to look at dad today, right? And not see the dad of 20 years ago because all they've grown to see is the man that you've become today. And you, in your mind, sometimes you're looking at your past, your trauma, your failings, your mess ups, and you're embarrassed about them or you're ashamed of them instead of realizing that those decisions, those choices brought you to where you are today.
Hmm.
And so use where you are today to move forward, but don't be afraid to, to share key lessons out of your life with your kids and or your wife, not only as guideposts, as blueprints, but also to let them know that dad had to go through the process of growth.
Absolutely. I think that we do ourselves a disservice if we try to push those off to the side and not bring them up. I think that
Yeah.
we often have too much of a mindset of that happened to me instead of that actually happened for me. It's
Yeah.
just a simple reframe, just a simple filter that you can use to look at this stuff. But no matter what the situation, something good will come out of it if you allow it to. And there's been some nasty stuff that I've had people that they have gone through, and the horrible thing that you can think of. And now they're running a group to help people that were victimized the same way that they were as kids. Most people would look at something like that and be like, there's no way some good could come out of it. But there's still people that will find a way to make something good about it. And it just simply comes down to what kind of legacy are you writing for your kids?
Yeah.
Because you can't write it after you're gone.
No.
And the cool thing about it, that legacy we leave behind, they don't need that perfect dad. They don't need the dad because everybody else out there is always telling us, well, you should be like this, or you should do this with your kids, or this is how you do this with your kid. Everybody's always telling us all of these ideas. When in all reality, you just need to be a present dad. Show them what it actually means to be human. Like you said, not perfect, because I don't want my kids to strive for perfection. I want them to strive for realism.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, my wife often says, I don't want perfection, I want progression.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I want to be growing, I want to be evolving, I want to be becoming. And when you start looking at at life in the from the lens of what am I becoming, then the decisions about the things that you do are a lot easier because it's all driven with the purpose of what are you becoming,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a good husband, a good father, a good business owner, whatever, right? And when you start focusing on purpose, all of a sudden everything changes.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have three amazing kids, you have a beautiful wife. Um, what are one or two key things that you think are absolutely critical for men to do in their homes?
First thing is definitely got to be boundaries, whether it's with ourself, with our wife, with our kids. We have to know what those boundaries are and be okay with enforcing them from time to time. I've seen where a lot of guys, everything is a boundary, do what I say no matter what. The whole because I said so thing that most of us grew up with. Well, we know that doesn't work. But we also know that just letting him run free range around the house and never having anything questioned doesn't work either. So, knowing how to hold those boundaries and explain the reasoning behind it, uh, A little tip that I throw out there a lot of times is instead of using you in these statements, use we and I. Instead of you need to act like this because this isn't right, Well, hey, look, dude, in our house, this is how we act. This is how we treat people. This is something that everybody does, not just you.
Yeah.
That's what makes a huge difference because then we're not isolating our kids. We're letting them know, no, we're all a pack. We're all together here.
Yeah.
That would have to be core thing number one. But then the other thing too, and this is something that took quite a bit of time to really become comfortable with, both for my wife and myself, is wife and husband first, kids second. That was so difficult to deal with because especially with kids when they're newborn, they need you, it seems like, every second of the day. But then you start noticing, what's the connection between mom and me? What does that look like? And what example are we setting forth for the kids? Because again, they're watching everything that we do. They're seeing all of the snippy comments about the dishes or the towels not being folded right. They're seeing that one time every couple of months that dad has a seat sleep on the couch because there's an argument or whatever. Like, they're seeing all of that stuff. And they're seeing it because mom and dad aren't taking the time to connect with each other. They're not making each other a priority.
And they're feeling that tension. And dude,
Oh yeah.
I'm 100%, dude. Say it louder for the guys in the back of the room, dude. You and your wife are a priority. It's like I tell my kids, I love you, but your mom is the queen of the house. She's the queen of my heart, and she. I mean, I love you, kids, but she comes first. Because here's the deal, right? She came before you, and she's going to be after you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to wake up and be a stranger to my wife. And that's what happens to a lot of these families, right? They put everything, the kids first, kids first, the kids first. And they wake up and they're strangers to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And Judy and I mean, you can probably, Judy and I have been married 36 years. You can probably count on both of these fingers, both of these hands, how many times we have not had a date night every week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, dude, you gotta continually be in hot pursuit of your wife, both in the house and outside of the house. She needs to be the center of your heart, and that will ripple down to your kids, and they will get the love. They will feel the love. They will see the love because it will be centered around the two of you, which is the core of your family.
100% agree. And the other aspect that I'll throw in on that is not only should you be pursuing your wife constantly, but you should be someone worthy of completing that pursuit. Most of us guys, like, let's be real, we don't really take care of ourselves that well. Maybe we go to the gym every once in a while, but our life is based off of gas station sandwiches, monster energy drinks, and all. Like, we don't really do that much for us because we're like, we already got the prize. We're in the marriage. Like, this is top tier. That's what everybody told us ever since we were born, is this is creme de la creme. This is where everything ends. So we're just like, I guess I just keep riding on this roller coaster until someone finally says get off. But it's so much more than that. Be someone that you're like. I'll bring a car analogy up here for you. If we are the car, and the way I like to break this down is the engine of the car, that's our body side, same thing as a chassis of the car. That one's pretty obvious. That's where the power is, that's where the do actions are. The mind side that we have, that's all the computers and the wiring, everything there. But we also have a heart and a spirit side, and that heart side is like the steering and the suspension. That's what absorbs the potholes and the bumps in the road as we're going on, so we can keep going straight on the road that we're traveling. And the spirit side that we all have, that's like the fuel and the ignition system. That's what actually starts the engine and gives it its power in the first place. Now, the cool thing though is, to top it off, that fuel system doesn't come with fuel in it. We have to put fuel in that car. That's what our wife is. So I like to tell guys a lot of the times, if you want a high octane wife, you better be a car that deserves high octane fuel, because you don't put race gas in like a 83 Corolla, you know?
I love that analogy. Oh man, and I'm in so many car groups with automotive detailing. Man, I'm going to take that segment. I'm sharing that with everybody because you're right, right? It's like we get into this mode of I've I've earned her heart, and now I don't have to do anything. There's no ongoing maintenance. There's no repainting or replacing some parts that get old and clunky and rusty. It's like sometimes all throughout your marriage, you need to be like assessing the condition of where
Mhm.
you are as well as where you are as a couple. And dude,
Yeah.
when you're continually doing those checkups, you're able to stay on course. You're able to stay unified in heart and purpose with your wife. And then the rest of the stuff just bleeds over into taking care of the family.
Yeah. I mean, any one of those parts you take out, I mean, everybody has to drive a car almost every single day of the week. You take out that engine, it doesn't run. Take out the computers, it don't work. If you can't steer, you're not going anywhere. I mean, any of those parts whatsoever go kaput, you're not going anywhere. I mean, most of us take better care of our cars than we do ourselves. We change the oil every 3 to 5,000 miles, get new tires put on it from time to time. We'll even change the tires just because it's no longer summer. Now it's winter, but we haven't done anything different for ourselves for years on end. But I mean, we all have to do maintenance to ourselves. We all have to check in to see how everything is operating before it does blow up. That's kind of where the concept of mechanics garage came up to begin with, is because we all have to do that maintenance. Even even guys that don't have kids still have stuff to heal from a
Yep.
father wound. So whether you have kids or not, it still helps to understand what fatherhood even means so you can
Yeah.
see things from that other point of view.
Yeah. Dude, I think we're gonna have to do a round two of this. This is a great conversation. Man, it's and I love that, right? There's if you want to be in a healthy relationship, you got to start with the guy in the mirror first,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then start extending out to you and your wife and go, "Hey babe, what are the things that you would like me to do that that would be helpful to you?" Right? That would make your life in our family better. What would make it richer, more
Mm-hmm.
fulfilling, right? When you start asking those questions, one, some of you guys, your wife's gonna go, "Who's this guy?" But if you're continually doing it, right, then it's like you're working together to refine your marriage and your relationship.
And it's crazy. They do that. They go, "Who's this guy?" Because for the whole marriage, we've been treating them just like one of the kids. We haven't been treating them like an adult because we won't have these difficult conversations with them. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, are we single and have, like for in my case, 4 kids instead of just three? Or
Yeah,
are there actually only 3 kids and then a team of parents that's helping raise them?
I
This
love
maybe
that.
this is something to get into on round two on this. So if we do that, which I'm totally down for,
Yes,
we'll
let's
we'll
do a
do.
round two. Let's do a round two. So this is great. So how do people connect with you? Because you're obviously doing some amazing things with that. So how do men connect with you?
So I've got a couple of different ways. All of my socials are just Mechanics Garage 417. So that's going to be on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I've got the website enterthegarage.com. That's where you'll find a lot more info about what programs it is we offer, what all that really looks like. And then of course I'm on face or on not Facebook, but Spotify and YouTube as well with podcasts. That's just the Mechanics Garage.
That's awesome. Well, man, I want to thank you so much for tapping in. Let's schedule something for next week or the way because I would like to do this sooner rather than later because this has been such a great conversation. I love your vision, your purpose. I love the authenticity that you bring to the conversation. Guys, please go connect with Chris Miller. Um, and thank you so much for being my guest. Guys, thank you so much for tapping in every week. Remember, please like, share, and subscribe. And you know what? Go take a walk, do some self reflection, and ask yourself some hard questions. And then come back and take a little bit of note. And if you're brave enough, Go have that same conversation with your wife and go, hey, I went for a walk and these are things on my heart. What do you think? Get ready to level up, right? And I think sometimes we're like, whoa, no, I don't want to hear it, but sometimes we need to hear it. So, Chris, thanks again. And you guys, thanks so much for tapping in. We will check you same time, same bad channel just next week. See ya.